off of turn 9, and the green is out, and the race is on. Johnny Rutherford with a bold move to the inside that almost forced Kevin Cogan in the outside wall, and look at Rutherford move up. He's running in 4th position. Johnny Rutherford, a bold move at the start. He took to the inside from his 6th starting position, moved up 2, and now Rutherford runs in 4th. The leader, Jeff Brabham, as expected, as the cars move through the S's, snake-like, but it appears that all the cars are running. Brabham a little bit high there going in to turn number 6. Here he is off of 6, down the hill, leading to turn number 7. Jeff Brabham stretches out the lead just a little bit on Al Unser, who started alongside. Now, Jeff Brabham sets the car into turn number 7, the sharpest turn on the circuit. Out of 7, stepping on the accelerator once again, heading uphill to turn number 8. Brabham, as expected, has jumped off into the lead. Those numbers that you see there are for the driver's benefit, telling them exactly how far they are from the apex of the turn. Now, here they are in turn number 8. And as they come off of this particular corner, now they really stand on the throttle, and look at Brabham build up speed as he goes down the backstretch. This is the point of the racetrack where the cars will be going the fastest of all, 190 miles an hour. It is Jeff Brabham leading with Al Unser running second. Now they come within our view as Brabham sets up for turn number 9. Dives that car deep down into the turn. Al Unser running about 10 or 15 car lengths behind. Here they come off of turn number 9, completing lap number 1. Jeff Brabham is your leader. Running second is Al Unser. Third is Rick Mears. 4th, Johnny Rutherford. 5th, Gordon John Cox. 6th, Tom Sneva. 7th, Bobby Unser. 8th, Mike Chandler. And 9th is Kevin Cogan. So Kevin Cogan, who started in 8th position, has dropped back 2 positions. But boy, I don't know whether you saw it, Roger, or not. When the green came out, Rutherford went way to the inside and almost ran over Kevin Cogan.
Well, you can quite often make a move on the start of the race and pick up 4 or 5 spots, and obviously that's what John was thinking about. But it also does present an occasional hazard, so it's a marginal bit of judgment as to whether or not that was a smart move.
Jeff Brabham once again in turn number 7, continuing to hold on to the lead here in that Dan Gurney prepared Eagle stock block Chevrolet car. Now he goes into turn number 8. Brabham looking smooth at this point in the race. He is on his 2nd lap of 95. Here he is moving through turn number 8. Al Unser still right there, but dropping back about 10 to 15 car lengths at this point. Once again, Brabham now speeds up considerably down the long straightaway. Larry Nuber in the pit area.
Down here, when the cars accelerated, the drop of the green flag was dust and dirt and debris in the air. It was incredible right down here on pit road. We're only about 50 feet from the front stretch here. And when the drivers accelerated, when the green flag flickered, a tremendous cloud of dust arose. And as they went down into turn number 1 on the first lap, the dust just followed them around. And I'm just wondering if they're having the same problems out there on the course and in the cockpit as we had down here on pit road when the cars went by in a big pack.
Well, Roger, we haven't noticed any serious dust problems at this point. It appeared to me that everybody stayed on the track pretty well.
There's an accident in turn number 9.
Turn 9 accident just coming off of turn number 9. And I believe that is Herm Johnson in car number 28. Herm Johnson spun coming off of turn number 9, spun to the inside of the race course, and is actually in the entrance to the pit area, so I don't believe we're going to have a yellow. The crew members will be going to his aid, though, and pushing that car on into the pit area. Herm Johnson, car number 28. Herm losing it coming off of turn number 9, and he has spun here in the early stages of this race. Also another car in the pit area, the number 66 of Roger Rager. Let's watch the replay here of the Johnson incident as it came off of turn number 9.
There he is as he came out. It looks as though he was all set up, and then maybe the boost of that turbocharged engine came into play, and it let the back end get out and get away from him. He didn't make contact with the wall, so conceivably he would be able to change the tires and get back out there and race again.
Now, what happens when a driver spins like this? Does it affect the tires?
Yes, it does. It'll flat spot the tires. You put the brakes on, you lock them up, and it'll cause big flat spots in the tires. So he has to come in and change those tires. Hopefully, you'll be able to restart the automobile and get back out there.
Meanwhile, out on the racetrack, it is still Jeff Brabham, your leader. A couple of other cars are in the pit area at this time, including Vern Schupan, and we're kind of surprised to see that. Schupan in that brand new March is in the pit area, as is Roger Rager in car number 66. So right now, 3 cars are along pit road, and the Herm Johnson car is still being pushed down to its respective pit position so that they can change the tires on that car. Roger Rager also in the pit area, and the crew is behind that car pushing it, so it appears that Roger Rager also has a mechanical problem here in the early going. Jeff Brabham continues to be the leader as the cars are now well strung out, Roger, and this is not all that surprising. The difference in qualifying speeds were quite significant, and of course, as we have mentioned, there was a little bit of an experience factor too to involve all of the drivers, so the cars are strung out fairly well even at this stage, and we've only completed 3 laps.
Well, the cars are going to be strung out. You have a substantial difference in the quality of the race cars that some of these drivers are driving. Now, it might not make that much difference on a shorter racetrack, but on a racetrack as complex as this and as many turns, the difference can be substantial. And the lack of experience of getting the car set up, and of course the fact that the car is not as a quality as some of the other cars out there, will make for a pretty big difference in the time and speed that the drivers are able to run.
3 cars remain on pit road. Meanwhile, Jeff Brabham continues to perform flawlessly. Here he is through turn 9. In front of us, cross the start-finish line for the completion of lap number 4. Al Unser is still running second. Running in 3rd position is Rick Mears. 4th is Gordon Johncock. 5th is Tom Sneva. 6th is Johnny Rutherford. 7th is Bobby Unser. Running in 8th position is Mike Chandler. 9th, Kevin Cogan. And 10th, Jose Legarza. 11th position belongs to Bill Alsop. And then a long area of racetrack before we get back to the next driver. So the first 11 cars are pretty much running together on the racetrack. Johnny Rutherford, who had moved up to 4th position, has now fallen back a couple of positions and is running in 6th place. Jeff, there is an emergency vehicle on the racetrack. Brabham, your leader. Al Unser second. Rick Mears is 3rd. And Gordon Johncock is 4th. And that white flag is being displayed at various locations on the racetrack because we do have safety vehicles out there. Bob Lazier comes in for a pit stop as we continue to watch Johnny Rutherford. And Kevin Cogan in car number 32, who spun off of the course at some location, has now made his way back to the pit area, is getting the start, and away goes Kevin Cogan. So good news for Kevin, who I'm sure is glad to be back out there in competition. Johnny Rutherford, at this point, unofficially, is running in 5th position. Rutherford here that we are following, running in 5th position at this point. The leader continues to be Jeff Brabham. 16 laps have been completed. We'll be back with more of the California 500 from Riverside. Jeff Brabham just now pulling away from his pit area. Brabham has completed his first pit stop in 21 seconds, and he is out there on the racetrack once again. So Jeff Brabham, the leader, relinquishes the lead here, but none of the other top contenders at this point have made their first pit stop. Brabham now will relinquish the lead to Al Unser. Unser will be the leader. Running in 2nd position will be Rick Mears, and 3rd will be Gordon Johncock. Running in 4th position will be Johnny Rutherford. So it's time for the pit stops, and one of the cars that we have noticed not moving out onto the racetrack, Bobby Unser. We noticed that car come in very, very slowly a few laps ago. We thought perhaps it was going to be a routine pit stop. But Roger, this is more than a routine pit stop.
It certainly is. However, they are working on the automobile. Bobby has not yet got out of the car, so it's conceivable they'll get back into the race in a relatively short period of time. They might lose 3 or 4 laps, but Bobby wants to race, and he'll get back out there.
Here is his brother Al Unser in turn number 9, and Al Unser, the current leader. Here he is completing lap number 18. Unser being shown as the leader at this point. Some of the other back markers trailing along behind Al Unser. He's pretty much all alone on the racetrack as far as the 2nd place car is concerned. The 2nd place car is substantially behind. 2nd place belonging right now to Rick Mears. And so we'll be watching now in the next few laps to see whether or not Al Unser will come in for a pit stop. The leader of the early stages of the race, Jeff Brabham, has already pitted, and now he is back out there on the racetrack trying to move up in position once again.
Here's Brabham back in the pits again. He apparently has some kind of a problem that will require some substantial solving, and I think he took the pit crew by surprise. Yes. They're changing the left rear tire. It's possible that that was the tire that was giving him trouble in the beginning. This could really work to his disadvantage, this extra pit stop.
Well, everybody, of course, had this man picked as the favorite for this race, but it's just an incident like this that can snatch the victory away from the driver who enters as the favorite. It looks like they're having a problem replacing that left rear tire on the Jeff Brabham car, and I think you're absolutely right, Roger. He did catch the pit crew by surprise because he pulled up and stopped, and the pit crew seemed to look over and say, what in the world are you doing here? Now they have the tire off, and you can see a new tire is being brought to the position, and they're going to put it on. But boy, that cost him dearly. He has been in the pit area for several laps and is going to go a lap down, although here comes Al Unser into the pit area. Al Unser, the leader, is pitting. There he goes beyond Brabham, and now Al Unser screeches to a halt, and the crew goes to work on that car. The crew checks the tires on the left side, and they indicate that they don't think the tires need to be changed. So it's only a fuel restop for Al Unser, and away he goes. So Al Unser has made his first pit stop of the afternoon, and that was a quick one. No tire change.
And he's put a lap on Jack Brabham, which will be very difficult on a racetrack of this length to make up. And they are still working on the automobile. It appears that their trouble is rather substantial.
It certainly does. Brabham remains in the pit area. Meanwhile, the second and third place cars are also in for pits, namely Rick Mears in car number 6 and Gordon Johncock in car number 20. Rick Mears is already away. No tire change on that car either. Gordon Johncock is also about to move away from his first pit stop. No change of rubber on that car. So it appears that the tires, at least at this point in the race, are holding up fairly well. But the cars have been into the pit area for their first stop because of fuel. Pancho Carter in car number 5 also in the pit area as we continue to look to our right and see that Jeff Brabham and Bobby Unser are still in the pits. Work still being done on that Jeff Brabham car, and it appears to be centered around the left rear of that car because they're still having trouble getting that tire on. Bill Alsop also pits right ahead of Jeff Brabham. You can see the work continuing to be done back there. What could the problem be, Roger?
Well, it's difficult to say. It's possible that they're losing a hub on the left rear corner of that automobile, but it appears as though they just can't get the wheel to go on and seat properly. It may be that the wheels were not properly fitted to the automobile.
Pretty good pit stop for Bill Alsop here in car number 7. He was in for a routine maintenance, now moves back out onto the racetrack, going around turn number 2, setting up for the S's. The car moving back up to racing speed. So some real excitement here as the favorite, Jeff Brabham, is in the pit area and losing a lot of valuable time. And I think you just probably better write Jeff Brabham out of this race at this point, because you can't be in the pit area for that long and still be in contention. Bill Alsop in car number 7 from Woodstock, Vermont, continues to run well here in the early stages. Unofficially, he is running in 6th position at this time and has already made the stop. Al, of course, driving for the Roger Penske team this year, and very glad that he has good top-notch equipment this year. He is a former Super V champion and moved into Indianapolis type cars in 1979, had 13 starts in Indy cars, won $29,000 in 1979. In 1980, he started in 11 Indianapolis type car races and made the Indianapolis 500 for the first time this year. As far as the California 500 is concerned, he has competed twice, both of those, of course, on the oval at Ontario. In 1979, he started 22nd and finished 22nd, dropping out after 59 laps with a cracked cylinder in his car. 1980 last year, driving his own machine, he started 7th and finished 16th, dropping out after 154 laps because of an accident. He also has experience at the Pocono International Raceway. Last year, he started 8th and finished in 4th position. and was third in last year's Mid-Ohio race that we covered for you on ESPN. Let's go down to Larry Newber, who is close to the Jeff Brabham situation.
Well, Bob, we're right on top of the situation right now. The car owner, Dan Gurney, is very busy trying to solve the problem, but I think we can determine from a crewman exactly what the problem is. What is the problem on the race car?
The left rear wheel nut's jammed and we can't get the wheel on properly.
The wheel just still won't go on. Is that what the holdup is?
Yes.
So it's just a problem of not being able to get one of the wheels on, or those very small, almost minute little problems. The kind of thing, Bob, it's just impossible to predict what happened. They came in for a routine pit stop, went to change the tire, and the wheel nut simply would not go back on the axle properly.
Roger Ward, you won the Indianapolis 500-mile race in 1959, and you went into that race as pretty much the favorite. What goes through your mind as you enter the race as a favorite, but yet experience a problem like this in the early stages as Jeff Brabham is?
Well, there are very few occasions in a race driver's life when he feels as though he has a really big advantage. And when you get that kind of an advantage, you hope that you can take it, you know, advantage to it. And here Jeff Brabham had a great advantage. Looked like he had the car that was going to win the race, and yet a little problem like this puts him out. It's got to be a real big heartbreak for Jeff.
The leader at this point is the number 8 of Al Unser. Second place belongs to Rick Mears. In third place is Johnny Rutherford, and fourth is Gordon Johncock. We will be back in just a moment. An all-over yellow flag has been displayed over Riverside International Raceway because of this accident. We are still not sure who it is. However, we believe that the car that came in contact with the wall is Jerry Carl in car number 38. And again, we will tell you that we saw Jerry Carl jump from the race car and go away from it. He was being assisted by some of the medical people and some of the corner workers, but hopefully Jerry Carl is not seriously injured in this accident. But from the way things look, that car is jammed up under an Armco barrier in one of the turns here on the race course. Jeff Brabham, meanwhile, has apparently corrected his problem and is back on the racetrack. Meanwhile, in the pit area, action is hot and heavy. This is Mike Chandler in car 74, who is in for routine maintenance. Mike Chandler running unofficially in third position when he came in. One of the other drivers that is back on the racetrack after a long pit stop is Bobby Unser. So both of those cars that were in for several laps, Jeff Brabham and Bobby Unser, are back out on the racetrack. Well, Roger, an overall yellow here means that the cars are being slowed down all over the racetrack. The pace car is out, and now the cars will bunch up, and we hate to see it happen because of an accident of the magnitude that apparently has occurred, but it will certainly mean that the cars will now be able to bunch up and perhaps give us a little bit better racing action.
That's true. It's just really unfortunate that Jeff Brabham spent so many laps in the pits, because with this kind of a bunch-up rule, if he were able to unlap himself a lap or two and hadn't been there quite as long, he could still make up the difference and perhaps be competitive. We're going to go to Larry in the pits for some additional information.
Roger, I've been standing next to Mike Knight, the Director of Communications for CART, for about the past 4 or 5 minutes. And there is so much conversation going on the official CART Communications radio system. There's a lot of work going on right now out on the racetrack and at the crash scene. We have not been able to interrupt what's happening. See, Dr. Steve Alvey, who of course is in charge in a situation like this, is one of those people who is right now on the communications link. And it is impossible to interrupt what's happening. They've been talking so steadily that we have not been able to interrupt to find out exactly what's happening or what did happen on the racetrack. So we cannot help you out at all on the crash scene. Also, I don't know if we caught it or not, but just moments ago, Bobby Unser's crew finally completed their work, and he is again back out on the racetrack also.
Well, of course, I just know it secondhand from John, but he was passing Jerry Carl. Jerry moved over on him, and they got together, knocked John off the racetrack, and apparently Carl went over our car and into the guardrail. That's really all I know about it.
Johnny is A-OK as far as his condition goes.
Yeah, John's fine. He's not hurt at all. He says the car is damaged, but he's not hurt.
That's it from the Chaparral pit, Bob.
All right, Larry, thank you very much. It's difficult for us to speculate on exactly how an accident occurs if we don't see it, and certainly a while ago we didn't mean to indicate that Johnny Rutherford spun, causing Carl the accident, but Things like that happen on the racetrack, Roger, and when you're driving open wheel cars like these guys are, sometimes you just get too close.
Well, you're absolutely right, and as a matter of fact, you could see an accident and 10 people would give you a different report as to exactly how it happened. Now you've got it from Johnny's side of the fence. Maybe you want to hear what Jerry Carl has to say. Maybe his version of what happened would be a little bit different.
We're watching Jeff Brabham here move up through traffic, and once again, Jeff Brabham lost about 8 laps on a very lengthy pit stop, so he is well back in the field, but nevertheless, that car apparently is running pretty well. There's a car off the course there for a moment, and here is Al Unser, meanwhile, who is the leader of this race. Right behind him is Gordon Johncock, who is running in 5th position. And so we only have 4 cars on the same lap at this point as Al Unser swings off of turn number 9 here and comes by to complete another lap. And that is the conclusion of lap number 31. Once again, Larry Newberg.
Bob, I can give you a report finally now on Jerry Carl's condition, and it's pretty positive and it's pretty optimistic. Jerry has been taken to Riverside Community Hospital. That was at the demand of Dr. Steve Albee. You know, race drivers never want to go, and Jerry was no exception. He didn't want to go, but Dr. Albee said, Jerry, you better go. There appear to be some fairly severe bruises, only bruises, on one or both of his legs. So possibly when the car came back down to ground, of course, the quarters inside are very tight. The legs bang around a lot on the inside of the fuselage of the race car. But Jerry's okay, but the legs are pretty sore.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a miracle to look at that wrecked race car of Jerry Carl's and to understand how he could have gotten out of such an accident with only bruises, because that car is pretty much wasted. But Jerry, we're very glad to hear, did not suffer real serious injuries. We will keep abreast of the situation, and should they find more at the hospital, why, we would certainly let you know. Well, this is the lead pack as we follow them through turn number 8. Bill Alsop and Jose Le Garza are trying to get around Steve Chassis, who is not running in the top 10 at this point, but right behind Steve Chassis are some cars that are up in the top 10, namely Bill Alsop and Jose Le Garza. And I believe that's Bobby Unser also running in that group, but again, Bobby Unser was in the pits for 12 laps and is also not among the leaders. Jose Le Garza got by Bill Alsop there going into turn number 9, so Jose Le Garza will now be scored in 3rd position. Jose Le Garza is 3rd. Bobby Unser is 1st, Rick Mears 2nd, 3rd now Jose Le Garza, and 4th is Bill Alsop at this point. Jeff Brabham continues to run out on the racetrack and do a nice job. Now we'll see if Jose Le can get by Steve Chassis, and he does. Chassis, you notice, moved to the outside of the racetrack in that tight turn, allowing the faster car of Jose Le Garza to go by. Now the car snaked through the S's here at Riverside, and Jose Le Garza now has Bobby Unser right on his tail. Bobby Unser apparently has gotten that car back up to speed, and although he was in the pits for 12 laps, is back up to speed out there, and he'll be trying to work up and finish in a fairly respectable position. Now in the pit area, car number 89, as we continue to watch Jose Le Garza and Bobby Unser out on the racetrack. Bill Kruger in car number 89 is into the pit area, and Bill, it appears, has a serious problem. The crew pushing that car down to his pit area. There he is, Bill Kruger in car number 89. Meanwhile, back out on the racetrack, action continuing to be hot and heavy. Jose Le Garza moving up well here. He's now in 3rd position. Right behind him is Bobby Unser, but Bobby Unser is not in contention at this point. Behind Bobby Unser, however, is the 4th place car, and that belongs to Bill Alsop. Well, Roger, is it absolutely out of the question that Jeff Brabham and Bobby Unser can come on to win this race? Unser 12 laps down, Brabham 8 laps down?
Well, there's certainly no way, in my opinion, for Bobby Unser to make up 12 laps, and I wouldn't think it possible for Brabham to make up 8 laps, but they would perhaps be able to make up a lap or 2, and of course on some of these cars they maybe could still finish in the top 10 or something like that.
All right, Bobby Unser, of course, is one of those drivers who is always battling for the national championship, and if he can pick up a few extra points that will bring him closer to that championship, why, he'll of course want to do it. Jose Le Garza from Mexico City is doing well on the racetrack and now in third. Kevin Cogan and Bill Alsop here, as Bill Alsop is running in fourth position and fifth position belongs to Gordon Johncock, so no, he is not battling for position at this time. Jeff Brabham, meanwhile, is back into the pit area. Jeff Brabham is in the pits once again. They are fueling that car and checking the tires. Apparently there will be no change of rubber on it, just fuel in the car, but he still is just sitting there in the pit area and is not making an attempt to get back out on the racetrack. Bob Lazier in car number 35 is still out there and doing a nice job. Bob Lazier is one of those drivers that lives out here in the West, actually Vail, Colorado. And Bob Lazier started this race here this afternoon in 23rd position. Bob right on Brother Al's rear wing and staying right up there with the fastest car on the racetrack, it appears.
We timed him on our very recent lap, and he ran over 121 miles an hour, which indicates that maybe he thinks he can make up the 12 laps.
We're covering for you the California 500 from Riverside, and we have completed 43 laps. We have 52 laps to go. One serious accident so far in this race. That involved Jerry Carl. His car went over the retaining wall. However, the word is that Jerry is not seriously injured, although he has been taken to Riverside Community Hospital for a checkup. He appeared to be, though, in pretty good health as he left the racetrack here. And Al Unser has been one of two leaders here this afternoon. The early stages of the race led by Jeff Brabham, who was the pole sitter. Now here comes the leader, Al Unser, into the pit. So a routine stop, we assume, for Al Unser. Let's watch to see what changes they make as far as rubber is concerned, or if they make any. It appears that maybe they're going to, well, I guess not. I thought maybe they were going to change the left front tire there, but they did not. It's only a fuel stop for Al Unser, and he is back in competition. So Al Unser, the leader, is back out there, and brother Bobby, meanwhile, continues to be out there. And now those two get separated somewhat, and Bobby Unser will be trying to make up another lap on his brother Al. Here comes Bill Alsop also into the pit area in car number 7, and Bill unofficially running in third position. Rick Mears now is the leader of this race, as the leader Al Unser came in, so Rick Mears has taken over the lead. He, of course, the 1979 National Driving Champion for kart, and Rick Mears is the leader. However, we also expect him to be making a routine pit stop in the next couple of laps. Here is Mears moving out of turn number 6 down the hill, setting up for turn number 7, and you can see that Mears is not too far behind Al Unser, so perhaps Al did not relinquish the lead there during that pit stop.
Well, I don't know exactly how far in front he was, but he apparently they are right together on the racetrack, and it is a race for the lead.
That is right. Al Unser was able to get in and out of the pits without relinquishing the lead, so it now becomes a very good race here between Al Unser and Rick Mears. But don't forget, Mears will be having to stop for a pit stop in the next few laps. Unser, Mears, Alsop, who is in the pit area right now, and Gordon Johncock is fourth. Look at the good passing going on here in some very tight areas of the racetrack. This is the cars as they move down this long backstretch and begin to accelerate. But Al Unser and Rick Mears, and look at this. Al Unser appears to be in trouble. He is slowing down significantly in the dog leg, which leads to the final turn, lap number 9. Now, he isn't too far away from his pit area, and perhaps he's going to be able to coast, but he is looking down between his legs in that race car, and Al Unser is in trouble. You know, Roger, when he pulled out a while ago, I saw him look down between his legs, and I thought at that time that maybe he had a problem. By golly, I believe he does.
He certainly could. It's you might have lost the transmission, maybe the shifting lever or something like that let go when he left the pits, and we have to wait and see whether he's able to even to coast back to the pits. He's going very slowly through turn number 9, and unless he gets a little help, or unless the engine is still running, which I don't think it is, he's going to have a difficult time making it to his pits.
So a real change of events here, as both of the cars that started on the front row, Jeff Brabham and Al Unser, have apparently experienced problems. Jeff Brabham's car is still in the pit area, and they are still working on the left rear of that car, and now Al Unser limps into the pit area. His crew has come to his rescue, and they push the car now down into his assigned pit area. But it looks like that there is a serious problem with that car, and Al Unser may be through for the afternoon. So that does indeed give the lead to Rick Mears, who is continuing to drive flawlessly on the race course, and unofficially now in second position will be Gordon Johncock, third Bill Alsop, and fourth would be Pancho Carter. Fifth position belongs to Jose Legarza, and I think most of the top four have not pitted, so we're going to have a change of the standings here when those top four cars do come in. They're working, Roger, at the rear of the race car, and could it signify an engine problem maybe?
Well, maybe they're looking at the transmission. It's possible that they broke the linkage to the transmission or something like that. It's difficult to say from up here what the problem could be.
Here's the leader, Rick Mears, into the pit area just behind Al Unser. So the leader is in, Rick Mears, and fuel being put in that car also. No change of rubber. The crew apparently is satisfied with the way the tires are holding up. Only a fuel stop for the leader, Rick Mears, and he is back out there. But Al Unser continues to sit dejectedly in his race car, and it doesn't look good at all for Al Unser. Gordon Johncock in car number 20 is also in, and Johncock also among the top five. Here is Rick Mears, and he made a 9-second pit stop. It was only fuel, and he is back out on the racetrack, and I think able to perhaps maintain that lead.
Well, Al Unser has gotten out of his race car. Apparently the damage is so serious that at least it's going to take a long time to fix. In fact, it looks as though his crew has given up. They probably decided they are unable to fix the car, and that's the way Al's luck has been running of late. A real shame, because he was certainly driving a great race.
Well, he certainly was, but now this man has taken over the lead. Rick Mears from Bakersfield, California. As we indicated in the open of the show, he's a former dune buggy racer, so is somewhat at home here in the desert, and right now is in the lead of the California 500 from Riverside. We do have the camera back that was broken, or at least the cable that was cut during that accident, so we're glad to have that camera back in operation. That's the one you're watching right now. So we are back to full strength as far as coverage is concerned at Riverside, but our camera was knocked out during the accident involving Jerry Carl. Rick Mears is leading the race, and he is into the dog leg just before entering turn number 9, the very wide and sweeping turn number 9. Here he is, and Rick Mears also looking down to the instruments on that race car, perhaps indicating that something isn't functioning exactly the way he wants it to, but nevertheless he stays on the throttle and is moving at high racing speed. Here he is in turn number 1, right out of turn number 1 into those S's that we have talked so many times about this afternoon. Turns 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here is 2, 3, 4, 5, and now into turn 6. Larry Newber is with Bobby Hill and the Al Unser crew.
Well, again, some dejection down here, as you might expect. It's been a tough couple of seasons for this crew. The car repeatedly is one of the fastest cars in the racetrack, and they've had a series of sometimes minor problems and minor incidents that knocked them out of the race. Bobby, what was it today?
It looked like the gearbox failed, and transmission cooler, to be specific, I think, failed. Let off the oil out of the gearbox, and it won't run that way.
Well, Al was here just momentarily, had a couple of comments with Bobby, and he headed back for the garage area immediately. He was very disappointed this day, wasn't he? It looked like your race.
There's no question. Yeah, it was our race, and it's a matter of just keeping it going. This is a hard race to win. It's a lot of, a long lap, and a lot of time. We've run, 150 or something miles down. It's just one of those things. One of these days we'll win one, I think, and so we'll see what happens.
Well, a lot of disappointment here, but there's still some optimism from Bobby Hill and the car owner for Al Unser.
All right, Larry, we are halfway through the California 500. 47 laps have been completed. And Rick Mears is the leader. Bobby Unser has been in and out of the pit area once again in the last few laps. So Bobby Unser back out on the racetrack, but the car of Jeff Brabham remains in the pit area. And although the car has not been pushed behind the pit wall, indicating that it is out of the race, Jeff certainly is out of contention for the win here at California. But a man who is certainly in contention for the win is Rick Mears. second place belongs right now to Bill Alsop, his teammate. So two of the Penske cars running 1-2 here at this point, with Gordon Johncock in third. Fourth position belongs to Pancho Carter, and fifth is Jose Legarza. Sixth is Mike Chandler. Seventh, Bob Lazier. Eighth would be the number 8 of Al Unser, although that car will be shown out of the race now. Running in ninth position is car number 32, driven by Kevin Cogan, and in 10th place, the number 22 of Dick Simon. Those are the top 10 drivers halfway through the California 500. Well, Roger, I would have to say that we have definitely seen some surprises in the first half of this race. The two drivers that we more or less thought would dominate the race, both have fallen by the wayside.
Yes, we have, and it's a real disappointment, I'm sure, for both of them. The thing that Rick Mears has to guard against now is perhaps boredom, or maybe getting a little bit careless. He's got a big lead. The car is performing beautifully, but a driver can lose his concentration sometimes when he has this much of a lead. So he has to be very careful that he keeps sharp and stays on top of him, because you never know what might happen around the next turn.
We'll talk more about what it's like out there on the racetrack in the heat of competition with Roger Ward in just a minute, but right now we'll pause for this message. And perhaps Johncock is looking for that opportunity to get around at some point on the racetrack. Bill Alsop has a slower car in front of him to worry about. That is Herm Johnson. They'll be trying to get around him, perhaps as the cars go out of turn number 8 and onto the long straightaway. Here they are down the hill, setting up for turn number 7. Alsop and Johncock running very close on the racetrack for third position.
Get a report that Vern Schupan seems to be okay, and that certainly is good news. Well, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Gordon Johncock, it would take him a little longer to get his feet under him. Oh, he's off the course. Just as I was beginning to say how great he was doing, he tries a little too hard, and that bull in the china closet got him again.
Well, he obviously was way high going into that turn and just could not keep him from sliding off the racetrack, but he gathered it in and got back in competition. And although he lost considerable distance to Bill Alsop, I'm sure he'll be right up there challenging again in the next few minutes. Alsop running in third, and Johncock. Now Alsop has just a little bit of breathing room, and I'm sure he saw all of that in his rearview mirror, right, Roger?
Yeah, we're going to show it again. He was trying to pass him on the outside going into turn. Well, yeah, there is a little bump out there, but he got a little wide, and there's car number 74, Bill Chandler, in trouble. He just went by the start-finish line, but there's Gordon Johncock as he tried to go in the turn, brake a little bit hard, and got off the racetrack. But what a shame for a fine young driver, Mike Chandler, who is now slowing down going up through the S's.
Well, Mike Chandler, as he came by us here, was slowing down, and he's the young man that we talked about just a few minutes ago. We'll be watching to see if that car slowed down momentarily or whether he is experiencing a problem. Here, meanwhile, is Bill Alsop, and still right ahead of him is Herm Johnson. So Alsop not running all that quickly and not able to pass Herm Johnson, who is not in the top 5 at this point. Your leader continues to be Rick Mears in the number 6, and Rick Mears driving a flawless race to this point. This is the number 7 car of Bill Alsop as we continue to watch him negotiate turn number 8. Here he is through it, and now we'll be stepping on the throttle and going down the backstretch. We did catch a glimpse there of Gordon Johncock, and he's having trouble getting around Mike Chandler. As we indicated just a few seconds ago, Mike Chandler did slow down, but now, as the cars drag race down that straightaway, Chandler is pretty much up to speed. As a matter of fact, dueling wheel to wheel with Gordon Johncock here, but Johncock is able to pass Mike Chandler, and Johncock slips into third position. So we do have a change in the standings. No change in the leader. That continues to be Rick Mears, but now running in second position is Bill Alsop. Third is Gordon Johncock, and the slowing car of Mike Chandler is running in fourth. And I think, Roger, that Mike Chandler is going to be headed for pit road. The fourth place car running second just a few minutes ago. Mike Chandler is in the pits, and a tough break for this young man. Let's see if they do any rubber change on this car or whether it's something more serious.
You know, it's possible that he ran out of fuel there momentarily, and that would be what caused him to slow down. And a real shame, but however, he will get back on the racetrack and will be able to finish the race, and of course that's really what's important.
Well, he's pulling out of the pit area with
we have a car off the racetrack there.
I believe that would be Bob Lazier in car number 35, possibly. Again, he spun the car, but did not stall, so he's still running, and Bob Lazier, the number 35, is still out there in competition. We'll watch that again in replay, Roger. The number 35 Bob Lazier incident would happen just a few seconds ago. See the car get off the racetrack to the inside and doing 180 there, a full spin, but keeping the car running.
Looked like he tried to straighten out that turn. That's someplace up there around turn 4. And when you get in the dirt, you're going to lose control.
You know, Roger, you mentioned a few minutes ago the possibility of Mike Chandler being out of fuel. There would be certain points on the racetrack where the fuel would be in a position to go through the engine, and in some other parts it wouldn't.
Well, that's right. Through a turn perhaps to the right, the fuel would run away from the pickup. We're going to go to Larry in the pits for an update on the condition of Vern Chupan.
In regards to Vern Chupan, all the reports are pretty positive right now. Everybody's saying Vern is okay. He is at the track hospital. To give you an idea of the condition, you know, right after they put the car back up on its wheels, a couple of safety people came over and started to assist Vern in taking his helmet off. And we understand he was rather abrupt with them, explaining to them that he would rather do it himself, and he shoved them aside and removed the helmet on his own. Also, as we've been walking up and down the pitch, checking with most of the teams whose cars have dropped out of the race, team after team after team, they're complaining about the heat. We've had a lot of engine failure. Steve Chassis, Pancho Carter, just to mention two, went up to the crew chief, said, what happened? They said, I don't know, it's in the engine. She just stopped, went over to look at it, was too hot to mess with. That's it from the pits right now.
Well, it's so good to hear that Vern Chupan is not seriously injured, and to hear that he was rather adamant about taking off the helmet himself. Boy, that was a terrible looking crash from those of us who were very close to it, and for some of us who witnessed the accident. Again, the witnesses say that something apparently popped on the car as he tried to make turn number 1. The car would not turn and went straight into the outside wall, and then the car flipped over, came to rest upside down, similar to the Johnny Rutherford incident that occurred at Phoenix earlier this year. Rutherford not seriously injured in that accident either. Here's a good battle for second now. Bill Alsop and Gordon Johncock are going at it for second position. Mike Chandler, who was also in this battle, is now off the pace, having made a pit stop a few laps ago. But Bill Alsop and Gordon Johncock are going at it tooth and nail out there, fighting for second position. Both of these cars a lap down to the leader, Rick Mears. We'll be watching to see Johncock's movement on Alsop, or whether Alsop can continue to maintain second position. Here they are moving through the S's. Turn 3, turn 4, turn number 5, and now turn number 6, the tight hairpin that will lead them downhill to turn number 7. Bill Alsop and Gordon Johncock battling for second place.
Bob, just a couple of laps ago, Gordon Johncock was 3.5 seconds back, so he has really made up a lot of ground, apparently running substantially faster than Bill Alsop, and we'll have to wait and see whether he can manage to make that pass.
Well, that's a good point. You know, he got off the track not too long ago and lost a considerable amount of time. But, boy, he's been able to make that up in just a couple of laps and now is in a serious, challenging position to Bill Alsop. Johncock to the inside in turn number 8, and by golly, he passed him. So Gordon Johncock in turn number 8, able to maneuver himself into second position, and Bill Alsop will fall back into third. So Gordon Johncock was certainly showing his ability to drive a road course on that particular pass, and he got around rather handily Bill Alsop there in turn number 8. Now Johncock begins to stretch it out just a little bit on Bill Alsop.
It looked like he was going to make a move on the outside, and then as Alsop moved over a little bit, maybe to close the door, Gordon made that move to the inside and was able to sneak by. Nice
maneuver there by Gordon Johncock. We have completed 81 laps. We have 14 more laps to go. It's been a rather long race this afternoon because we have had several yellows, including 2 overall yellow situations. The accidents involving Jerry Carl and Vern Chupan. Here is Larry once again in the pits.
We've been watching Gordon Johncock on the racetrack, course hometown Coldwater, Michigan. He's not the only representative from that city still on the racetrack. Scott Brayton is still out there, and there's a connection. It's just not chance that they're from the same city. Gordon Johncock and Scott Brayton's father, Lee, himself a former race driver, are business partners. Gordy was very instrumental in getting Scott into big-time racing.
Rick Mears is the leader. He has led since lap number 45. We have completed lap number 81, and we will be back with more of the California 500. Running in second position right now, Gordon Johncock. Third is Bill Alsop.
Well, it was very important for them to make the kind of a great pit stop that they made. He was in the pits only a few seconds, took on just enough fuel to finish. We don't know for certain that Alsop won't have to stop again, but I doubt that he has to. And as you can see right now, Johncock is already almost in his mirror, or perhaps in his mirror, and we'll be looking to see whether or not Johncock can pass him as easily as he did before.
Well, would Bill Alsop stand the risk of going the distance, knowing that if he does go in for a pit stop, he will relinquish second, or will he play it safe, you think?
Well, I think that decision will have to be made by his pit crew. I think Roger Penske would be the only person who could determine whether or not he was in a position to go the distance. So we'll have to wait and see whether they call him in or not.
All right, we have only 5 more, make that 4 more laps to go. This race will be history, and we're watching the battle for second position here between Bill Alsop and Gordon Johncock. Johncock into the pits the last lap for fuel, and now, by golly, he is pulled up and is challenging once again. But it looks like Johncock may have a handling problem. At least he did.
He's just trying a little too hard. He did the same thing there coming out of turn 9. He got a little too stiff on the throttle, and the boost came in on his turbocharger, and he almost lost it. He's right behind him right now, trying to make a move.
And there are a couple of more cars between or in front of Bill Alsop, so that may present a problem. One of them is Herm Johnson. Johncock looking for that opportunity to pass. This particular portion of the racetrack is not the place to pass, but now they're through corner number 6 and go down the hill headed for 7. Here is a little bit of a straightaway that they can do some passing, and Alsop and Johncock both able to pass Herm Johnson. So now there is another car ahead of them, and I'm not sure but what that is at Bobby Unser. I only caught a glimpse of that car, but I think it is, and perhaps he will present no problem to these other drivers because he has been running very strong on the racetrack, but maybe will. Now Johncock moves to the inside, and by golly, he went around again. Gordon Johncock sneaks by Bill Alsop in turn 8 to the inside, and Johncock goes back into second position. So he's done it 3 times during the late stages of this race, and Johncock back into second. Alsop now falls back into third. Larry Newber in the pit area.
Well, Bob, even though Bill Alsop obviously would like to finish ahead of Gordon Johncock, he's still looking at the possibility of his best finish ever in a championship or Indianapolis-type car. Bill's best previous performance was the most recent race on this year's trail when he finished 4th in the Michigan 500. You recall that on a road course like this at Mid-Ohio last year on another televised ESPN race, Alsop had his finest performance to date at that time when he finished 5th. But should Alsop hold on and come home 3rd, it will be his highest finish ever. And I think, again, he'd probably like to beat out Gordy, but he's going to be pretty happy with the 3rd and think how his car owner's going to feel. Roger Penske's looking at 1st and 3rd. How about that?
Well, right now we have some action on the racetrack. Gordon Johncock is trying to pass car number 6, Rick Mears. I'm sure that Gordy realizes that he's a lap down, but he is running right behind Rick and making a real serious effort to pass him. Could have a little action here. Of course, you know, you think that you keep hoping that maybe someone's made a mistake in the scoring. Looks like Gordy may have slowed down a little bit there, or maybe made a little boo-boo going through turn 7, and Mears lost quite a bit of ground to Mears, but
these weekends on road courses for Gordy Johncock from time to time in the past have been long ones. Gordy has a history of being able to go very, very fast on a road course. A lot of people didn't think when Gordon Johncock first rose to the top of Indianapolis-type car racing that he would be competitive at all. but he's a very competitive guy on any particular type of racetrack. And even though he's a little short on experience, remember he didn't move up to the Indianapolis cars till he was almost 30. He spent quite a number of years back home running in southern Michigan and northern Ohio running the super modifieds, and he really wasn't prepared for road course racing when he came up to the big cars. But despite that lack of experience and preparation, Gordy's done pretty well. He's won a lot of races on road courses.
And the white flag has been displayed, not because there is an emergency vehicle on the racetrack, but because there is one more lap to go, and Rick Mears is on his final lap now. And he appears well on his way to victory. Gordon Johncock sneaking up right behind him. Don't forget that he is a lap down to the leader, Rick Mears. Johncock, though, is still challenging Rick Mears out there, even though it's the final lap. And look at Johncock to the inside. And I don't know, it appears that he came very close to forcing Rick Mears off the racetrack there.
Sure that he did. What he is hoping for, of course, is that there's a scoring error and that he is on the same lap and perhaps now in the lead. I think he'll realize after the race is over that that is not the case. But in a situation like this, you don't want to gamble. If you can get that position, you better do it. And I'm surprised that Mears is not going a little bit harder to ensure his victory.
Rick Mears on his final lap of competition. Here he is entering turn number 8. A long straightaway, a sweeping right-hand turn, and then the start-finish line and the checkered flag for Rick Mears, who has led this race for several laps now. Again, he took over the lead from Al Unser on lap number 45. Johncock continues to lead Rick Mears, but Johncock running in second position, moving through turn number 9. Here is the leader through turn number 9, and Rick Mears now just a few feet away from the checkered flag and victory in the California 500. And there it is, the checkered flags are displayed, the twin checkered flags, and Rick Mears has won the California 500 at Riverside. A very long race that has taken over 3 hours to run, hampered by several yellow flag situations, including 2 very serious accidents. No driver injuries, though, and Gordon Johncock in car number 20 will be shown as the second place finisher. Bill Alsop unofficially 3rd, Mike Chandler unofficially 4th, and 5th position belongs to Bob Lazier in car number 35. So Rick Mears now slows the car and waves to the fans gathered here at Riverside International Raceway, and Rick Mears chalks up another win in Indianapolis type car competition. Through turn number 6, going a little more slowly than he has in the past 3 hours. Now moves down the hill and will be negotiating turn number 7. As you can see, Mears moved by a car there that had earlier dropped out of the race. Kevin Cogan's car up against the retaining wall off of the racetrack. And Rick Mears celebrating the victory here in his Gould Charge number 6 Penske prepared car. Rick Mears moving into turn number 8 now, where we have seen a lot of passing this afternoon, especially by Gordon Johncock. Johncock seemed to like this particular turn to pass in, although it's a very tight turn that actually involves 2 or 3 turns. But Johncock was finishing second here. Johncock just passing by us right now.
4 races. Just great. You know, the car just worked flawless all day long. The guys just did a tremendous job of getting the car together for me. The last 2 days of testing and practice and everything, they were just great. The thing never missed a beat all day long. All I had to do was keep it on the track. It made it easy for me.
Rick, we got to ask you about the heat. It was just oppressive in the pit area. How was it in the cockpit?
It was very hot. I had them dumping water in on me on the pit stops. It wasn't terrible, but I had them dump the water in on me anyway, just to make sure I didn't get too bad before I could get back in for more water. And so I just had them dump some in every time I stopped, and that kind of refreshed me, and it kept me a little more alert.
Now, late